it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Friday, December 6th. Okay, so we're in for a pretty major day of energy here in the cosmos. And of course, this is going to be kicking off back to back to back to back to back. Yes, that's right. 5 different energy shifts from now until about Sunday. Starting with, of course, Mars going retrograde here today at 6 degrees of this Leo energy. There's an astro forecast out there for your listening pleasure. And of course, if you have your December energy guide available to you, please flip to this particular section in the workbook and really capture what is going on for you right now. As we enter into the new year, are going to need to reflect back to this particular point in time in order to figure out what needs to be revisited, revised, reassessed, if you will, before we go ahead and take action and make moves in the new year. So again, very important that you're following along, not only with the energy in the forecast, but also in those workbooks as well. Now, that's not the only thing going on here today. This is the very last day that Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, will be in Capricorn energy. She's sitting at the 29th critical crisis karmic degree that Pluto sat at here in this Capricorn energy from September up until November 19th, when he officially moved into that Aquarius energy. We also have Ceres, which is an asteroid that we don't really talk a whole lot about, not in my forecast anyways. I should probably start doing that. We have Ceres at the final degrees in this Capricorn energy as well. Venus and Ceres will be moving into Aquarius energy here early on December 7th. And as they move into the Aquarius energy, of course, they're going to meet up with Mr. Pluto already in that Aquarius energy. And all of that takes place before Neptune goes direct. Neptune's coming out of his retrograde here on the 7th, and that is setting us up for the last astro shift, which is going to be taking place on the 8th, which is the first quarter moon popping off in Pisces energy. So again, if you haven't listened to the December energy overview, definitely do that so that you understand all of the energy shifts coming at us specifically this weekend, but overall throughout the whole month. Because again, it's better to be aligned. It is better to roll than be dragged. So the moon, still very much in Aquarius energy, helping us out, emotionally detaching us from our situations, from our circumstances, so that we can kind of act as the observer, see the greater, grander plan that is at play here, and of course, come up with some solutions on how to free ourselves, liberate ourselves from some of the limitations and restrictions that, of course, we are tired of beating our head against a wall about. So the moon is going to go void, of course, at 7:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we won't be moving into Pisces energy until 4:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 7th. So a huge window where the moon will be void. And of course, things get shaky, unstable, uncertain with that particular energy. But luckily for us, it is an Aquarius energy helping us to see that greater, grander picture, to gain a new level of perspective, of awareness, and push us into a new level of consciousness. Again, seeing how all the dots are connecting and where it is that we want to go from here. So with all of that being said, there are 12 different aspects popping off here today. 8 of them are going to be involving the moon. So the moon actually gets off to a pretty decent start here today. We have a sextile, which is a beautiful interaction, first with Mercury, then with the sun. And of course, if you listen to yesterday's energy forecast, you would know that Mercury and the sun came together for their conjunction, marking the halfway point of this Mercury retrograde. So it makes sense that the moon is first going to interact with Mercury, getting our heart and our head on the same page. And then, of course, interact with the sun, showing us the path, the steps forward. Now, we should have gained a little bit of clarity, a little bit of intuitive insight from that conjunction here yesterday. That's going to kind of push us into really pushing the boundaries of our thoughts, of our plans, of our futuristic goal, vision, and dream. So we're definitely getting the day kind of kicked off in the right way. However, Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, who is currently retrograde in the Sag energy, is going to be semi-squaring, creating tension and conflict with Venus, sitting at this last degree of this Capricorn energy. So this isn't going to feel good. Now, one of the things that this is going to trigger and activate for us is that our words aren't necessarily matching how we actually feel. And again, we know that when Mercury's retrograde, we can expect communication to be a little bit tricky. And we're kind of putting so much energy into trying to make a lot more sense than we're actually making, that we're making a mess out of things. And so again, it's almost as if, many of us engage in tasks and chores that we do pretty much on autopilot, but the minute that somebody is watching us, suddenly it's like our first time doing it and we just mess everything up. Pretty much the same vibe with this particular interaction. We're trying so hard to get our message across, to use the right words, that we're kind of messing things up for ourselves. And it's putting us in a situation where we may even trigger a little bit of insensitivity. So maybe we're kind of blurting out the truth. We do have the tendency to do that with Mercury and the Sag energy. There's no filter. There's definitely just verbal vomit. But in our efforts to try and, really get out the words that we're trying to express, we could do so with a little bit of rigidity. And so it definitely could be a situation where, we have a split decision. We are in second guessing mode. And because of that, our insecurities are definitely being kind of noticed in the way that we're trying to communicate and express ourselves. We get a little bit of help out of that particular interaction because the moon is then going to trine, which is a beautiful interaction, with Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, abundance, and blessings, who of course is retrograde in Gemini energy. One of the reasons why we're on the fence about things, why we're second guessing ourselves, why we're trying to weigh the pros and cons of two very different situations, circumstances, paths, options, and opportunities. This is air on air action, giving us this trine, which is a growth, if you will, in our ability to see where it is that we do have options and opportunities to move on, to move forward. First of all, with integrating a lot of the tough love life lessons that we've already learned in past situations and circumstances into the present moment, so that we can effectively not repeat the same patterns and behaviors that we've gotten caught up in before. This is going to bring a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence back into our mood and our attitude, our ability to kind of focus on the positives, definitely being percolated at this particular juncture. However, it doesn't stick around for very long because we have the moon in Aquarius semi-squaring, creating tension and conflict with that North Node in Aries energy. And of course, the North Node is trying to get us on the right path, trying to get us to reach our soul's mission, our soul's potential. But at this particular juncture, we're a little bit confused on the first step that we want to take in the path, in the direction of our future goals, visions, and dreams. Again, we're kind of on the fence about things. We have a little bit of clarity, but we're missing a lot of details. We're definitely not informed as we want to be on making the kind of decisions that we feel very pressurized into making at this particular juncture. We get a huge help, though, because the moon in Aquarius then goes ahead and sextiles, which is a beautiful interaction, with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in this Aries energy, helping us to focus on what we need to heal, what we can fix, what we can improve within ourselves. And so even though earlier on in the day we weren't feeling so confident, we weren't feeling so hot, we were kind of on the fence about things, now we're starting to realize that a lot of the old programming, the fears, the doubts, the insecurities that we had as that old version of self is kind of creeping up again and preventing us from feeling like we are capable of doing what needs to be done. And so this particular interaction is going to kind of show us where it is that we're open-minded to at least thinking outside of the box, trying new things to improve our situation and our circumstance. And overall, we're just kind of grounding, reminding ourselves that guess what? We've already done a huge amount of healing. We've already been through a lot of really tough love life situations that we didn't think we were going to survive. And so having to reframe that, because again, Mercury is retrograde, we are reframing that and we are plucking out the confidence, the strength, and the silver linings. And again, this is very encouraging and supporting us in realizing that we can face whatever challenges are about to come at us, especially when we initiate a new path, a new direction moving forward, because guess what? We have successfully kind of moved through all of the challenges and obstacles that have been thrown our way thus far. So this is at 9:52 a.m. I want you to pay attention to the timestamps I'm about to give you here. 9:52 a.m. we have that beautiful interaction where we're open-minded, we're ready to grow, we're ready to evolve, we're ready to heal. We're plucking out the strength and the silver linings of our experiences. 6:52 p.m., okay, so that's a huge chunk of time. We sit in that until 6:52 p.m. At that particular juncture, we have the sun in Sagittarius energy, semi-squaring, which of course does not feel good, with Pluto, the great transformer, who is in this Aquarius energy, pushing for change and transformation in all the right ways. But of course, the sun interacting with Pluto kind of puts us in a situation where our fears, our doubts, our insecurities are kind of playing at us, where we kind of adopt a negative mindset instead of that optimistic, confident mindset that the sun in Sag usually gives us. Instead of feeling empowered, instead of feeling like we can do whatever needs to be done, we're really kind of sitting in the victimhood mentality. We're sitting in the funk, we're sitting in the darkness, we're beating ourselves up, we're breaking ourselves down. Now pay attention to this timestamp. 6:53 p.m., just 1 minute later, Mars, the god of war, will retrograde in Leo energy. So you want to talk about the boldness, the bravery, the courage that we're supposed to be sitting in, just falling off the side of the table and leaving us in this poor little victimhood, want, me mood and attitude. This is why I encourage you to not only listen to the astro forecast that I put out for this event, but to also capture it in that December energy guide, because again, the days kind of leading up to a planet moving in a different direction and 3 days after, this is the potency of the life lessons that we are supposed to be learning with this particular retrograde. So definitely pay attention to that. Now, only a couple minutes later, we have the moon in Aquarius energy getting into the boxing ring, squaring off, fighting it out with Uranus, who rules over the Aquarius energy. And of course, Uranus being the great awakener, he is currently retrograde in Taurus energy, and he's supposed to be highlighting for us where it is that we're having a hard time letting go of certain people, places, and things of the old world that old version of self had built and created. And of course, we've already run the course with whatever it is that we're overly attached to, and so it doesn't make sense that we're having a hard time moving on from it. However, the square is going to even more so magnify and illuminate where it is that we're a little bit confused on how to move on, how to move forward, tying up these loose ends, providing this amount of closure before we clear the space and clean the slate to actually start building towards the futuristic goals, visions, and dreams that, again, we're still having a hard time piecing together. This is going to be the last aspect that the moon will be making before going void, of course. 7:03 p.m., the moon goes void. Okay, so we sit in that for about an hour. We have the moon in this void making a positive interaction with Mercury, who's retrograde in Sagittarius energy. So suddenly, sitting in this funk, sitting in this darkness, we're on the same page between our heart and our head. And we're looking back, really dissecting how it is that we've gotten here, how it is that, maybe we have to revisit some old projects, some old plans, breathe new life into it, so to speak. And whatever is happening within us, something pops off in a beautiful way where we actually get a spark of creativity, of solution, of an aha moment on what needs to be done, where we want to go from here, and how to actually do it. So that is a beautiful thing. However, a couple minutes later, Mercury is going to get into the boxing ring and square off with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who of course is in Pisces energy, and this is not going to feel good. Now, on top of that, this is actually the second interaction between Mercury squaring off with Saturn. We had the first one November 12th. And of course, Mercury was direct at that particular situation. This is the second interaction. And of course, Mercury's retrograde for this interaction. And then the third and final interaction that we're going to have between Mercury and Saturn will be taking place on December 27th. And of course, at that particular juncture, Mercury will be direct. And of course, Saturn will be in his rulership over Capricorn season and will be moving into that new moon in Capricorn energy window. So there's going to be a lot of revelation. So basically, if you want to think back, or if you have your guides available and you want to go back to that timeline around November 12th, there was some sort of situation or some sort of topic, theme, conversation going on. Something was communicated, something was talked about, something was, being kind of planned around that particular point in time that we didn't get off the ground in the way that we wish that we would. And so there's been a little bit of a course correction, if you will. And of course, with Mercury now retrograde, this is a time to revisit that, to reassess, to revise, to re-edit those plans, that strategy, and moving forward. Communication is definitely the major focus here because there's blocks and challenges in this communication. And that's what Saturn is bringing, is this block, this challenge, this restriction, this limitation, if you will, not only being able to communicate and articulate ourselves correctly, but to actually gain the information and details that we're currently lacking in order to make an informed decision. So we could kind of expect that there's going to be some sort of connection right now to that particular time frame. And we also have to expect that the clarity that we're currently craving won't likely be downloaded to us until that third interaction, December 27th. So this is when we're going to definitely see those old problems or those old issues or, just old areas of obstacles and challenges kind of resurface in order for us to gain a better visual and a better perspective and a better understanding. And again, we're not going to be gaining the kind of insight and clarity that we're currently craving until the end of December. Now, the last thing that we have going on here today is the moon in this Aquarius energy, still in the void, making a very positive interaction with Neptune, who, of course, at this particular juncture, is still retrograde in his rulership in Pisces energy. And this is actually going to be the last interaction that Neptune will be involved with before stationing direct here on the 7th. And so the moon in Aquarius, very connected to logical, practical, rational, intellectual thought. Neptune, very connected to hopes, wishes, dreams, intuition, and manifesting. They're working together. They're working together to gain a visual on the goal, the vision, the dream that our higher self wants us to pursue. And we're actually able to bring it into the highest form of our intellect that Aquarius energy rules over, and actually plan and strategize what we could do in our physical realm to start aligning with actually being able to bring some of these aspects of our goals, visions, and dreams to life. So I think this is a beautiful interaction to kind of close the day off with, because we're moving into a very life-changing day here, December 7th, with all of the fluctuations taking place, all of the energy shifts taking place on that day as well.